Hey, Joe, Shabbat Shalom.
Hey, Shabbat Shalom.
How are you?
I'm well, and you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. So the first thing that I want to say to you is Mazel Tov because you were announced yesterday as the chair of the board of JSpace. How are you feeling?
It's an honor. I'm thrilled. I'm so happy to be joining this organization at such a critical time for the Jewish people, both in Israel and here in the diaspora. And while so many people that I know, friends, family, colleagues, uh, are thinking about how what's happening in the Jewish world affects them and how they want to make change. And so, I'm very excited to be at JSpace Canada, to be thinking about that and to being a voice for pro-Israel, pro-peace Jews, and thinking about, how we can advance progressive Jewry in this country.
Amazing. Do you want to talk a little bit about who are you? What brought you to this work? Where do you come from? What's going on?
Sure. It's funny because we talk a lot about the establishment of Jewish community here, and maybe we're not happy with them all the time. Maybe we're not thrilled with what they're doing or the message that they're putting out or the way that they're representing Canadian Jewry. I come from the Jewish establishment. I was a Jewish Federation hack for a good 10 years. Originally grew up in the United States, worked in politics for about a decade, and then made the switch to Jewish Federation and worked at the Boston Federation, the Los Angeles Federation, Columbus, Ohio. I worked for a pro-Israel organization in Washington, D.C. At a time, right after the Trump administration had taken office, and it made the politics very toxic to the right, trying to stay relevant to the White House. And it made me a progressive person who was already feeling uncomfortable with some of the rhetoric in our community around Palestinians specifically and around sovereignty and self-determination for both Israelis and Palestinians. It pushed it to the extreme. And I left and went back into Federation work here in Canada. That's what brought me here. And I realized, that there was something about that moment that stuck with me. And I just needed to do something a little different, to push the conversation forward, to make space for so many people that I met and sat around the table having, a hushed conversation about how I'm really uncomfortable with what's happening. I don't know how to express it, and I don't think anyone wants to hear it or will listen to me. And just to make some space for that conversation, to bring people around our table at JSpace and to start thinking about how we create that conversation, create the discourse in this community, change, some of the toxicity around this conversation that shuts out voices that are genuine and concerned and express a love of Israel, but also express a need for change. So what about you, Maytal? You've been, you're the veteran at JSpace Canada. What brought you to this work?
Yeah, so for me, it's a little different. I'm actually a dual Canadian-Israeli citizen. I grew up in Israel. We made Aliyah when I don't want to date myself. We made Aliyah in the 90s, and people can put those pieces together. But that was definitely for ideological reasons. My mom is just the typical socialist labor Zionist, has always loved Israel, loved the kibbutz movement, wanted that kind of life for herself. And there's something I think that we oftentimes forget, especially in younger generations, and how Israel is maybe described to us in the diaspora, which is we forget to hold on to the fact that Zionism is a movement of young people, of rebels, of radicals, of dreamers, of artists. And that's how it started. And that is definitely who my mom was and why she moved us there and why she moved us there at that time. I'm an Oslo kid. It is all very familiar to me. It remains a huge part of my formative years, remembering what it felt like to live on a kibbutz, to live in Israel during a time that felt so hopeful. And I want to feel that again. And I don't want to believe, the rhetoric around Oslo is dead, the two-state solution is dead. that's giving up. That's not a movement of young people and rebels and artists and dreamers. That is naysaying, and that is giving up on what's so important to us and what we want to fight for. And I just feel like, I mean, I guess selfishly, I feel like I don't want my mom to be the last generation to get to do it. I want to do it. But definitely that's a huge influence in my life. I experienced in Israel that was almost what it could be, and what the stories that we tell of it and what we want it to be, and what I think so many of us have in our mind when we think about it. And I know that it's not too late, and I know that that's not gone, and I know that we can still make it happen. But being quiet because we're scared of consequences, or being silent because we've been told to be silent, isn't the way to do it. And I think in the past couple of years, I've really had to think for myself, like, what role do I want to play in this? What role can my voice serve? And further than that, and I think larger than that, is if I don't use that voice and if I don't speak up, what then becomes of this place that I love so much? So, as I get emotional saying this to you, so JSpace is, I found a home in JSpace, and I'm so excited to have you as our board chair. I'm so excited to be working with you and the rest of our amazing team. And we've done a lot of great stuff already that I'm so happy to see the results of. And we're going to keep doing amazing stuff as we move on. And one of the things is in this very email that this video is in, we've also got some links and some media links to things that we've been reading or listening to or thinking about. Joe, do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So every Friday, the plan is every Friday to send an email with some just, what's going on with JSpace, what's happening in the Jewish world, kind of what is of note from a progressive perspective. So we'll include some links to different media sources. There's some videos, some articles, maybe some book reviews, whatever it might be, but we'll share some things that hopefully will help you to kind of get a picture of how JSpace views the world and what we think is important when it comes to the conversation, especially around Israel-Palestine, but what's happening in Canadian Jewry as well.
Awesome. And if people want to also participate and tell us what they're reading, because we can't read it all as much as we try, you can email us at joe@jspacecanada.ca or maytal@jspacecanada.ca. And you can tell us what you're reading. You can tell us what you've loved about what we've shared or what you've hated about what we shared. You can argue with us. You can give us kudos. You can present an alternative view. We are happy to hear it all.